the forgive and forget, to me, that means nothing. To me, and this is just my opinion, the way I feel, it's impossible.
Did you push record?
Thank you for tuning into our second act with Paige and Silka.
For your second act of life. Hey, Silka.
Hello, Paige. Paige, I came across a topic that I thought, this is Paige. I want to talk about this with Paige, and that is, can you really forgive and forget? And I bring that up because we talk about a lot about baggage that we bring to new relationships, or baggage that we've carried if we've been in a long, relationship. We've experienced so much that has influenced how we act and feel today. And a lot of it comes back to forgiveness, or so people say. I'm not sure where this discussion is going to go, but I know I've been thinking about that a lot. Can you forgive and forget, and should you?
Well, you know what I say about should. Should is shit. So just take it out of your vocabulary. I'm a big person about forgiveness. That's how I live my life. And I think it's really important because forgiveness, if you don't forgive, there's so much anger that lies beneath it. And then what lies beneath the anger is the hurt, the betrayal, the sadness, whatever it is. So the more you stay in not forgiving, there's all these other layers that are just coming up, and they're going to come out in so many ways. And they're going to come out in your relationship. And you had talked about like the baggage that you bring. Mm-hmm. If you don't forgive the things that have happened, right? I guarantee you 1000% it's going to bleed out in the person that you're having a relationship with. And you will tend to take things out on that person. And that person hasn't done anything. So you have to be really aware of your actions. Are some of your actions stemming back to not being able to forgive what somebody did to you prior? And then we have another situation or piece, Silka, right? Of you're in a current situation and something happens, and can you forgive what happens currently? And a lot of that has to do with, too, is what is the situation that you're forgiving? How hurt? How deep is it? So I'll just take a pause there.
Well, my next logical question would be, what exactly is forgiveness? Have you really thought about what that is? Is it that you verbally forgive someone? Is it that you just do it, internalize it, and okay, I'm over this? There's such, and you said it too, it depends on what the situation is, because I think there's things that are unforgivable, and maybe I'm small-minded. Can you give us some guidance on that?
Wow, you love to just throw a lot at me and have me break that right down. So you said a lot. Some of the first things that come up for what you said was, people just kind of say, okay, I forgive you. Using words are just words. Actions need to match words. And if you forgive somebody so quickly, you have to be able to then go within yourself and figure out, what are the layers of this forgiveness that I've just said that I'm going to forgive? Because if you say the words and it doesn't match with the layers that you've, processed through and trying to identify, because forgiveness has layers to it. So you really have to get in tune with, what are you forgiving? Mm-hmm. How has the situation affected you? What are the layers of the emotions? You have to unpack some of this, because if you're quick to just say, okay, I forgive you, it creeps back in here and there. So it really is up to you to decide, let me unpack this a little bit. Let me kind of be with this. Let me feel what this is like. And human beings don't want to feel. And when you're after 50, they're like, I have felt so much. I'm tired of hurting. I'm tired of this. Let me just quickly move on. But you're not growing. You're just stuffing it again. So you really have to decide, do you want to take the energy to deal with this? Or you can say, you know what? I can't forgive it, and I don't want to waste the energy or my time. So I am going to pull out and move along. And that's okay too. It comes down to, what can you do? What is best for you? Is this a relationship that you really want to put the energy into, because we're not 25 anymore, and
Hmm.
energy takes a lot the older that we get. So it always comes back to us.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, it absolutely does. So let's get to the other part.
Okay.
Forget, can you forget? I mean, I can, I don't think I can forget. And I don't know that we necessarily should. I know you hate that word, so that's why I'm throwing it out there.
How about,
Because,
I
go
don't
ahead.
know if we can necessarily can forget. I think that's more of what happens in the person's psyche.
Hmm.
Can you forget? And then you have to ask yourself, if I can't forget this, how do I manage not being able to forget while I'm still in this relationship? I mean, there's a lot that goes with this, and it comes back to, if you're someone who really can't forget this and it gets in the way, then maybe it's better for you to pull out. A big part of this too is the other person, whatever's gone on, and I'm big on this, communicating and saying, I'm having a difficult time forgiving right now. I'm having a difficult time forgetting right now.
Hmm.
I'm going to need the space. I don't know what that's going to look like, and it's going to be messy. So you ask the other person, now that I've said this to you, tell me where you are. It's really about sharing where you are with forgiveness and forgetting.
Yeah. Well, and I agree with all that. Again, just going just down to the basics. Like, how can you forget? That means you'd have to erase it from your mind. Isn't it more like how you deal with that memory? I mean, like the forgive and forget, to me, that means nothing. And to me, and this is just my opinion, the way I feel, it's impossible. And I personally think it's bad advice because there's lessons there that you have learned. Why would you want to forget that? That's sort of where I'm coming from. Why this is such a touchy topic with me.
I
So
can
when you
tell.
hear me, when you hear me say that, what comes to mind? Because I think other people feel that way too.
I keep coming back to personal self-growth. I keep coming back to the communication with the other person, because the more you're able to air it and talk about it, it helps, and it unfolds as to how the other person is allowing. And if I can just give an example,
Yeah, please.
because I see this a lot
Hmm.
in relationships. I'm going to go back to cheating.
Yeah.
And
That's a
I'm going to,
great example, and one
yeah.
that I'm thinking of that happened in my marriage. Anyway, it's not about me. Give your example.
Okay. So, you know, I see this a lot when I'm working with couples, and the one who has cheated
Hmm.
wants to quickly get over this,
Hmm.
and I'm sorry, and let's just do this. And I continually have to say, the actions and behaviors that you chose to do cannot quickly get over because you're uncomfortable of sitting in the choices that you made and how it's hurting the other person. And when someone wants to quickly get over it, it's because they don't want to feel the emotions of what they did to this other
Hmm.
person.
Hmm.
And I'm continuing have to say, you have to allow the person that you've hurt to take in what has just happened. And it's a process, and they have to unpack it, and it's going to be messy. And you, the person who have chosen those actions, have to now learn how to sit in the choice that you
Hmm.
made and stop pushing the other person to quickly get over it because you don't want to feel what you've now done to this other person. So you see, it's this seesawing of what goes on for both people.
Yeah, there was an article I came across, and I want to get your opinion on that. They said the 3 steps to forgiveness, or how to forgive, and then maybe forget. And I read a lot of articles, but something spoke to me here, and that is the 3 steps are. Now, I'll throw it over to you.
Okay.
Put yourself in the other person's shoes. That we all, do stuff that's not right or wrong. Face your emotions, which you just covered, that we don't want to feel, especially in the
Mhm.
Western society. We suppress our emotions. And then an interesting one: forgive yourself. Like you should have seen it. You should have done something different. That you internalize what happened, perhaps more so than you should. There we go again.
And it's not just the person who maybe been cheating on to forgive themselves.
Hmm.
It's the person who did the cheating as well, because that's another layer right there. So what you had stated about putting yourself in someone else's shoes,
Yes.
when you're the ones being cheated on, you can't go there right away.
Right.
It just doesn't happen because there's too much emotion and too much anger. However, I have seen in relationships where things had been breaking down for a long time, breaking down, breaking down, breaking down, and both parties, excuse me, knew they were breaking down. So sometimes the person can put themselves in the cheater's shoes by saying, with the way I've been and the way things have gone in our relationship, I can see why you stepped out on it. That's how I see someone putting themselves in the other's shoes. Another way of putting yourself in the other's shoes, if you're the person who's been cheated on, it's not going to happen right away. There's just too much anger. There's just too much hurt. There's just too much betrayal. And I don't know, really, this is Paige's opinion. I don't know if you can put yourself in someone else's shoes. I would rather, if the person wants to cheat, to come to the other person and say, this relationship's not working. And if we don't do something, I get a sense that I'm going to do something that will break our relationship. That is the courageous thing to do. That is about communication. And it all goes back to, where was the relationship? Because if there was never any communication and you weren't sensing what's going on, we can keep going on and on and on about this.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's just, to me, it's like I said, it's a super interesting subject. I'm not sure why it came to mind the way it did, but forgive and forget. I think somebody said it to me, and it's like, what? Forgive and forget. How can you forgive and forget? And so I'm really interested in hearing the comments on this. What do you think about this? What comes to mind? Does forgiveness, does it really help you ultimately? I know that it's linked to, reduced blood pressure. I mean, there's physical benefits
But it's more
from,
than that. If
go
you
ahead.
forgive, you're actually allowing yourself to move on. You're not carrying the anger, the hurt, the betrayal that's seething out in everything that you
Mm-hmm.
do. And when you forgive, sometimes you stay and sometimes you don't.
You don't.
And there's also a saying, you can forgive and not forget.
Mm-hmm.
Because if someone is showing you a potential pattern and you start to see it again, there's a memory there of, wait a minute, I've seen this before. So is it really good to completely forget?
Mm-hmm. I don't think so. I think remembering is a lesson that you don't necessarily want to forget. You want to get over it to where it doesn't, as you said earlier, impede a new relationship or you
Or the current
blame.
one that you're in.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a lot to unpack. It's so messy and
Mm-hmm.
it's so layered and it's so deep and it triggers one more thing.
Yeah.
It triggers other things that have happened in a person's life long before you've
Oh
been
yeah.
in that relationship. As I am a proponent for forgiveness, when you're forgiving someone, it's not like you're allowing somebody off the hook. You're doing this for you. You're doing this so you can move forward. And moving forward, however that looks for you, it's so it doesn't hold you back in the throes of anger, in the throes of hurt, and in the throes of, I'm cutting myself off from life, from relationships, whatever it is. So try and think of it that way as well.
Great point. Well, Paige, usually I ask you if you wanted to add anything else, but I think you just did.
I did. I just did.
Again, a deep topic. I look forward to the comments on this. And if you have an idea on how to maybe cover this in more detail or something specific, let us know. Because now that Paige is back, we love these doing these topics. So Paige, I'll see you soon again on Our Second Act with Paige and Silka.
For your second act of life. Bye.
Bye. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to subscribe to our channel. The button is right here. Just click on through to YouTube, and when you see the little bell right next to the subscribe button, hit that too, and we'll notify you every time we launch a new video. See you next time.